Hello, my name is Richard Corbett from emergebydesign.net, and welcome to my weekly astrological and human design transit report starting on Monday, June 23rd through Sunday, June 29th. Now, as we roll into this calendar week on Monday, we're going to be looking at some big energy. We're going to have our sun, life force energy, conjunct Jupiter, the planet of expansion. It's a big conjunction, a lot of energy, as well as having Mars sextile that conjunction, and we've got Pluto in on the picture, and there's also still the dynamic working square between Saturn and Neptune. So from a planetary aspect perspective, it looks like a lot of expansive, busy, bang up energy, but it's all happening within the context of the balsamic moon, the waning crescent. We're just going to be 2 days prior on Monday, prior to the new moon and her home sign of Cancer. So that frequency, although it's loud and expansive with the aspects, I think when we take it within the context of the moon and how she is our inner security, tranquility, and drives us with our unconscious reactions into the world, she's asking us to go inward, introspection and reflection. So it's quite a nuance amidst the backdrop of these powerful aspects we're going to be taking a look at. So without further ado, let me pull the charts up and I'll show you why I'm sharing these things. And as always, when I do this, I just want to take a moment to thank you all so very much for joining my channel. I appreciate the likes, and if you haven't subscribed already and you do find support from these, yeah, please go ahead and subscribe. Love to have you be part of Emerge by Design. So here we have the charts. And we're looking at Monday, June 23rd. All the charts except for the new moon are always going to be set at noon Mountain Time. Also want to mention that I do not use the house system in the astrology chart. All of the charts are set for 0 degrees Aries every day because I don't look at the house system because that would change depending on your location on the globe. So here we are. Let me go ahead and get my annotator. And I want to start out by looking at the planets down here in Cancer. The sun moved into gate 15 last week, which put the Earth opposite in its polarity in gate 10. And so if we look at the sign of Cancer, here's the sun in gate 15, closing towards its conjunction with Jupiter, within a degree right there. And so here we have, as I mentioned, this life force energy, the center of our solar system, joining, combusting with the planet of Jupiter, expansion. Whatever Jupiter touches in a chart, it's always amplifying that. Now, of course, we know that Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius, that Jupiter is what we call a benefic planet. We generally think of good fortune, good things. Jupiter is a planet of knowledge. When we look at it from the Sagittarian perspective, we're thinking about knowledge, philosophy, also that expansion of ideas. What's possible out there? And so this is a wonderful conjunction. But it is a lot of energy. The only thing we can say about Jupiter on the downside might be that sometimes it can be too much. There can be the over amplification. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not always so good. But certainly a beautiful conjunction to observe, and it is going to add to the flavor of the week all week. And it's happening in the sign of Cancer. So, of course, we're thinking about all things Cancerian. Our home, family, intimate relationships, our feelings, our emotions. With both the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury still traveling through Cancer, we may be seeing a lot of emotional quality and an undercurrent to this week. Now, the moon herself, as I mentioned, we're just, less than 2 days away from the new moon. So she's in that waning crescent, decreasing illumination every night. And so it's a wonderful time, these last few hours of this lunar cycle, to reflect, to look back on this month. Every lunar month brings us a lot of emotional growth and development and activity and all the things that happen in a month, right? We're living busy lives. But this is a wonderful time to sort of just maybe slow down, sort of tend to that garden of our soul. Now, the moon's traveling through Jupiter, so she's a very, very emotionally communicative right now. So we may be having these types of conversations with our loved ones and concern to our home, family, and inner security. And I mentioned that with that Sun-Jupiter conjunction, we also have Mars over here, who is traveling through Virgo, is forming a sextile with that Jupiter. So Mars sextile Jupiter, here again, we have this feeling of amplification of energy. Mars really lending his movement or action towards this conjunction. And that's why I was saying that really, again, if we just looked at the aspects and the planets, it's like, wow, it's time to charge forward, move ahead, make things happen. But wait, we're always helpful to align and appreciate and be aware of where we are in our cycle. And we're in a cycle of going down within. And so I think it's sort of maybe a contemplation or awareness of how do we take all this planetary dynamism of energy and use it to go inward, this reflection concept. How can we use that in our maybe our new moon meditation, that we're going to be thinking about on Wednesday, what our intentions are. And I think that's part of the message of the overall week is harnessing the energy to apply to intention where we may want to go eventually. But right now, it's about nourishing ourselves, really appreciating this waning crescent moon and the dark of the night to reflect on where we are. In addition to all of that, we have Pluto is in a quincunx to that Jupiter at 3 degrees. So we have Jupiter at 3 degrees Cancer, Mars at 3 degrees Virgo, Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius. And Mars and Jupiter, as well as the Sun, since they're so close together, are forming this quincunx with Pluto. Well, that's an aspect I call it fuzzy. It's confusing. It's hard to figure out. The planets are not directly 180 degrees apart from each other. They're one sign over, right? And so there's this difficulty in getting direct perspective with the message. And so it's sort of a staticky radio station, but nonetheless, it's very tight in aspect. And so Pluto, very much a part of these other energies that I've been explaining so far. And of course, Pluto being the lord of the underworld, the planet of death, rebirth, transformation. At its heart and soul, Pluto wants us to find our own personal truth. It's about stripping away the facade of the ego, or it's all about me. It's really true. Pluto wants to know what's your eternal truth, what's your soul's essence, what is that truth, and he's going to help us by hook or crook, and sometimes challenging experiences to drop all that other fake face stuff and find out what it is. And so I'm thinking about how much Jupiter, Sun, strong Mercury, Cancerian energy as we go through the darkest nights of the moon, ready, steadying ourselves for the new moon. And here we have Mars over here in gate 59, which is part of the channel of intimacy. So it's the ability to break down barriers to achieve intimacy. So Mars is lending its hand in this emotional realm of emotional connections. And we've got this tight formation with Pluto, and Pluto asking us, are we being true to ourselves in this emotional connection with others? And are we being true to the other person in terms of being honest and forthright and really elevating our truthful communication? So I think that's a big part of it. And again, I got a few more to add just because these aspects are so tight. Jupiter, as well as the Sun actually exactly, or just previously to this chart, was squaring Neptune. So that Sun-Jupiter closing conjunction still in its square to Saturn and Neptune in gate 25. To me, one of the most interesting conjunctions or aspects that we won't have actually till February, but between now and February, Saturn and Neptune are in lockstep, moving forward, eventually retrograde in July, back into Pisces, but still in gate 25, and then they'll move forward for their actual conjunction in February. So we've got Saturn and Neptune in this gate 25 for the rest of the year. Saturn does a quick dance back into gate 36, but really most of the time in gate 25. And so this will be part of my conversation every week, is what's happening in this gate of the spirit of our higher self, the limitations we're finding with expressing our spirit, the Neptunian illusions and delusions and fantasies about how that's all taking place, but also the potential to lean into the creative nurturing of our self-empowerment, of our own sense of spirit. Very dynamic time. It's almost like our own spirit, due to these two planets and the aspects they're forming for the rest of this year, it's like our spirit is in a crucible right now. This idea of self-empowerment, what's really, truly, deeply self-empowering to me right now, rather than what does someone else think? What are the obligations? With all this Cancer energy, it can certainly bring up issues of obligation from family members or emotional connections with others. And so there's always going to be that push and pull between what everyone else thinks is good for me and what I know to be good to or true for myself. And so always it's about following our personal authority found in your human design body graph. But certainly these are the issues, I think, or the questions that this particular transit is asking from us. And so that Saturn Neptune in 25 is in a square to this Jupiter Sun closing conjunction. So a lot of dynamic energy as we roll into the week. But I really wanted to remind us all, including myself, that we're heading into a new moon right here. So really just taking the time to take some deep breaths, find some decluttered space in a whether in your home or in nature that feels really nurturing right now. A lot of opportunity to get pulled out of that into the noise and confusion of outer circumstances. But I think the symbolism is saying, hey, let's take a breath here. Let's collect ourselves. The last aspect that I wanted to mention that I didn't hear was that Venus, currently transiting gate 2, is in a half square to that Jupiter Sun closing conjunction. And that's the gate of higher knowing. Again, back in the G center, this idea of being receptive, having the self-love and acceptance and follow personal authority to accept this knowing, this deep sense of receptivity can only come when we are receptive. Right. And so Venus adding a half square. So it's conflicting. Again, I think that's sort of part of what I'm seeing as an overall theme this week is the confliction between, man, everybody wants me to run and jump out there, but I need to come inside here right now, inside my temple, and make sure I'm taking care of myself and nurturing and really spending quality time to reflect on my personal intentions of self-empowerment. And I think if we're in that zone right there, wow, we've really got the winds to our back. Okay, let's go ahead and move into Tuesday. And all those aspects that I mentioned are pretty much still in play today. We see a little bit of shifting of the aspect lines here, but we can see that on Tuesday that Sun Jupiter conjunction is exact. It's in gate 15 in the G center. In line 6, it's a line of the role model, truth, wisdom, right? And it's the gate of extremes. Now, this is nicknamed a love gate, the love of humanity. And to me, that's always, my reflection on that has always been, wow, how do I see what love would see in everyone? Because humanity does express extremes. And we are obviously seeing that in the news feed right now. We are dealing with extreme situations, polarity, conflict. There's a lot of challenge right now for our species. But at this moment here, this less than a day before this new moon, and we're in this encouragement of reflection and introspection, how are we expanding our love of humanity? That really could be a keynote of this particular conjunction of the Sun and Jupiter at 3 degrees of Cancer. And how are we finding the nourishment through seeing what love would see? How are we creating that comfortable nest of our home so that we can nourish our feelings and the emotions on the inside? Very powerful. And as I mentioned, that Pluto is exactly or quincunx that conjunction. Right. So Pluto in gate 41. Now, this is a pressure gate to start a new cycle of experience called a gate of contraction. It's the idea that there's many opportunities for new experiences, and we can have fantasies about a lot of different things, but it's really about selecting the correct one for us individually. And so Pluto being that a planet of truth and transformation, I think Pluto is really agitating this conjunction, which can make looking at the world right now and say, well, there's people that I definitely could never love. And yet, I don't know, the symbolism here is saying maybe we can take our own individual step of self-empowerment to increase the frequency of love that we are each sharing, no matter how different and opposing other people's perspective or viewpoints are, that maybe we can move into some one step forward towards some harmony in this gate 15, accepting the extreme nature of all beings. And I say harmony, and I can't help but look at this little sextile here. This is going to be growing over the coming couple of years between the outer planets, with Pluto very closely sextile Neptune right now. Uranus will get more into that picture. We're going to have all three outer planets over the next couple of years moving into very supportive aspects. And I think that that's certainly encouraging as we look at the world and all the challenges we're in. It may get worse before it gets better, but there's something happening here. And as we know from the Human Design 2027 prediction, we are in a definitive mutation right here. So certainly interesting times, but I really appreciate how Pluto in that sextile with Neptune right now, and Neptune and Saturn in that gate 25, we are in the crucible to find and touch and experience and embody what our spirit is yearning for, that feeling of empowerment, of living authentically. We are in that crucible, I think. But I just, yeah, definitely feeling that as we see this big conjunction in Cancer, that how we're nourishing our emotions right now was tremendously impactful and supportive to our experiences. And I want to mention Mercury, also in that sign of Cancer, still has moved into gate 56 here. Gate 56 is in this throat center of expression. It's called the gate of stimulation. And it's also called a gate of storytelling, right? Because it's in the throat center. So we're going to have Mercury, the planet of communication, in the body graph center of communication. And it's in this particular archetype about how we speak about the past. And so I think also all week long, particularly in the next chart at the new moon, Mercury is encouraging us to listen to our stories right now, our own stories, as we share with friends and family and coworkers. How are we telling our stories right now? It's a lot of Cancer energy at a sensitive time of the new moon coming up. So are we sharing them from a diminished victimization standpoint and with a lot of blame or shame involved? And if we are, there is no fault in that, right? We simply recognizing it is the first step in the healing process of self-empowerment. And so just listening without a judgmental ear, just like, wow, I just had that conversation, and boy, did I make myself sound really weak in that. But we're not weak. Weakness is an opportunity to recognize and be aware that we want to be stronger, right? So again, just trying to remove the good and the bad. Every transit that we look at in these reports every week, sure, one person could call them good or easy, one person calls them bad or hard. Well, it's all perspective, but perspective is reality. And so being able to listen to our stories this week while Mercury's in gate 56 under these very strong and influential aspects really can help set our compass. We're like, I'm not appreciating that feeling, right? All about feeling this week with so much Cancer energy and the new moon. We can hear our feelings. We can hear the feelings of those we're with. And so this is the watery emotional field of frequency that will be existing in this week. And it's a wonderful time to bask and bathe in that emotional water, to support our loved ones and elevate their movement of growth and development as well as our own. So tremendous possibilities this week. I really, really feel that in the feeling world, we are in the solar plexus world. And as I say that, let's take a quick look at the body graph. At this noontime chart, the moon herself, wrapping up her movement through Gemini, is going to be in gate 12. And with the North Node in gate 22, for a large chunk of the day on Tuesday, we're going to get this channel of openness, design of a social being. It's in that individual circuit group. And it's about the energy for self-empowered, authentic emotional expression with others. Works on a pulse in the sense that from the circuitry standpoint, sometimes we feel like we really want to be graceful and share emotions and light up the room. And sometimes we just want to completely not even go in the room, right? It has all of these energies have spectrums, including the archetypes, but everything that I've been sharing so far is sort of part of this theme. that it's about emotional expression. How am I feeling about how I'm expressing myself right now? And how do I work with that? How do I support myself? How do I give myself more nourishment right now? These are all really supportive contemplations as we head into the new moon, which I'm going to pull up right now. And so here we have the moon, or the new moon, in her home sign. So we get one Cancer new moon every year. And certainly just that alone would make this a significant new moon, because we get one a year, and so that elevates its importance. She's in her home sign, so it's so connected to this feeling of emotional security, our home, our nesting, our family, as I've been saying already leading into this. So what a strong Cancerian feel. And then again, we add that Jupiter into it, because Jupiter at 3 degrees is conjunct this new moon. So he's bringing his amplification and all that. And as I mentioned, we still have Mercury there. So a lot of strong energy at the time of this new moon, which I look at like the heading of the chapter of this coming month, of this lunar cycle of growth and development. What's the headlines right now? Well, it's about holding ourselves, loving ourselves, nourishing our feelings and those of our loved ones, as well as, let's take a look at where the sun just moved. If you didn't see it already, the sun has moved into gate 52 by the time of the new moon, putting the earth in its opposition in Capricorn in gate 58. Well, gate 52 and gate 58, let's go over to the root center, the pressure center in the body graph related to our adrenal glands. These are the two root pressures of logical circuitry, logical having to do with patterns of health and well-being and the improvement of them. Looking at the patterns of health and sustainability, and these are the two gates that fuel that pattern from the root center. And the sun himself in gate 52, which is called the gate of inaction, also called the gate of the mountain. It's the inaction for the benefit of assessment. That's a very logical phrase. It's the fuel gate of logical circuitry. Can we stop and be still and reflect for the benefit of assessment of the pattern? So as we look back at this incredibly emotional year, oh, you guys that have been following me, you certainly have been hearing me beat this drum about the solar plexus and the invitation of initiation that we've been experiencing. Here we're getting this lunar cycle says, hold the phone. Let me sit down in my zone of comfort with whatever niceties that I can have around me right now, and stop the music. Well, I should say the music won't stop. Again, I've already been trying to paint the picture of the week. There's a lot of amplification of energy, but this new moon, where she goes completely dark, and the only thing illuminated is the other side of the moon, where I always think of it like the moon is having a very private conversation with the life force energy. It's sort of like the moon is getting her download right now, and she's going to use that download to share with us throughout her trip around the zodiac over the next month. And so at the symbolism of this new moon, with so much Cancerian energy and the sun's life force energy and the moon herself saying, gate 52, let's stop for a minute. Let's recognize the pattern. Let's see, is this pattern leading to my own sense of health, well-being, and sustainability, or not? And if it's not, I might make some intentions this month to work with that. What am I doing? What habits do I have that are not healthy, that I should already kind of know, but maybe this new moon is going to show me what I can let go right now? Don't have to get overwhelmed by these questions, right? We're always wanting to regulate our nervous system and be calm with our breathing, right? To connect with the body, because the body knows it has its own innate wisdom. And so not being mentally, intellectually judgmental about where we are right now, but to be physically connected to presence right now, and to be soft on ourselves with this very tender new moon energy, and ask ourselves, what are my patterns right now? Am I working too much or too little? Am I sleeping too much or too little? Am I avoiding loved ones too much or too little, right? It's all just a sense of evaluation. This is the energy of this new moon in the gate of being still. And through that stillness, we can ground our energy in the earth symbolism, because the earth is what grounds us, Mother Gaia. And the earth is in gate 58. This is the gate of aliveness, the gate of the joyous. These are the names of these gates in the Rave I Ching and the ancient I Ching. This is the other energy gate of logical circuitry about patterns of well-being and sustainability. And so it's through this new moon cycle, the symbolism asking us to breathe in, go inward, reflect, nourish, be inactive as much as a space may present to find the energy for joy, more joy. Gate 58, I have this in my incarnation cross, so I'm very familiar with these gates. This is the energy for more joy. It's relentless, it's insatiable in its drive to increase joy for everyone. So while we're going to hear a lot of amplification of noise in the world and the push and pull and tug of exterior events, the symbolism here is to go dark, to go in, to breathe into regulation of comfortability within our Cancerian internal home right now and listen to the messages. It's almost like message in a bottle, this lunar cycle. And I think they're out there if we can listen to them. And lastly, just to say that that square to gate 25 with this new moon energy, they're still very close. It's not exact. Those squares have passed, but it's very tight and it's very strong. And so part of that inner introspection and reflection is concerned with not only our patterns of sustainability and joy, it's connected to the empowerment of my very spirit of my soul. So deep contemplations is what I'm suggesting here for all of us, including myself. I'm laughing because I just am realizing near the time of this new moon at 4:30 a.m., I'm actually going to be getting on an airplane going to a busy city, and I'm thinking about how loud it's going to be. Travel, airports, rental car, traffic. But I am going to find some time intermixed with that day on Wednesday and Tuesday night as well, just to take those few breaths. It's not about the quality of time, it's the quality of intention. And so, even a few moments during this time period this week to really get some reflections and questions down for ourselves. Again, I want to really emphasize personally, I feel this is one of the most powerful new moons of the year in terms of emotional intention and self-empowerment of my spirit. And so very tender, but important. Such Cancer energy going on here. We'll see where this goes for the rest of the year. But yeah, just was really appreciating as we explore this particular symbolism at this new moon. Okay, let's go ahead and move into Thursday. Certainly still have all that strong Cancer energy. We can see that Mercury in gate 56 is forming a trine to, it'll be Saturn first over the course of the rest of Thursday into Friday. There'll be a Mercury trine Saturn, and then shortly after that, Mercury trine Neptune. So again, I just wanted to mention again the planet of communication in the center of communication in the archetype of stimulating storytelling about our past. So when you tie all that together, it's like, how are we conversing in this emotional field of Cancer, our stories, right? And what have we learned about the stories? What did we like, appreciate, or recognize was not good for our health? I mean, there's just a lot of direction we can learn from the past, stories, right? Direction from past stories, the gate of stimulate. We stimulate each other with these solar plexus growth and development. So very much part of the symbolism here as it's trining that gate 25, touching on the spirit of our empowerment and what our personal story is about that and what our intention, right? And we're just in the day after that new moon. So certainly these first couple days as the moon just barely starts illuminating with that beautiful waxing crescent, it's a tender time. So, with the new moon being on Wednesday, this whole calendar week, really encouraging finding the moments that we can. Just not always easy. Family, children, commitments, work. Me too. I mean, I got a big week going on this week, but that doesn't mean that I definitely will not carve out some space. It's not about the quantity of time, it's the quality of the intention of the time that really forms the connection with these frequencies that are speaking to us, almost like a message in a bottle, if you will, during this time. Okay, let's take a quick look at Friday. And on Friday, Mercury into Leo. The moon would have just been conjunct Mercury in the early morning hours, since this is at a noontime chart. So here we're still feeling this emotional Mercury, emotional communication. And the sun being in the gate, or excuse me, the moon in the gate of influence, Mercury just wrapping up. Mercury will move into gate 31 once we get into Saturday, but still really feeling all of the energies we've been talking about. I mean, we're still feeling the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, even though it's separating, and also the square to that Saturn-Neptune. But the highlight here on Friday being this Moon Mercury emotional communication of influence and storytelling as it relates to what is the story from the past concerning our spirit and development of self-empowerment. And we'll move into Saturday, the 28th. Now, what I found interesting on this Saturday chart, just going to say a little bit about it. You'll notice all of these purple lines, these purple aspects. They're called sextiles. And they're considered a minor aspect. I have them set very tight so that they happen for a very short time period. Oftentimes there may be a sextile in the day, but I don't have it on the noontime chart, so I don't bring it up. But because this particular noontime chart on Saturday had four very close to exact sextiles, I wanted to mention them today because things just kind of happen for a reason. And I've been sharing all the emotional qualities of this deep, powerful new moon in Cancer and in our intentions going forward concerning the empowerment of our spirit. All of a sudden, I saw these sextiles. And the one word keynote for a sextile aspect is it's like something from the outer world, right? They're mystical. Is the word I was searching for. They have a mystical quality. They really do embody that idea of a mystical message in a bottle. And so as I looked at, my reflection on the Saturday chart was, well, if we're sort of doing this introspection and reflection and really connecting with ourselves in a deep embodied way, we're gonna get a message. There's going to be something there. And this chart on Saturday, with all the dynamism of all the other aspects I've been talking about, the potential is there. The only question for ourselves, I think, is will I be present for it? And I think through presence, this is how we receive the gift of the sextiles. I'm not going to go through each one of them. I don't have the time in this report to do that here. But because there's so many, being receptive, I think, to them just sort of opens the frequency to be heard in that sense. And yeah, so just found that to be an interesting element to our day on Saturday. And then lastly, we'll take a quick look at Sunday. Sunday, the moon will have moved into analytical Virgo and is approaching a conjunction with Mars in gate 40. The gate of called the gate of aloneness, but it's really about how we apply our ego energy in the support of our tribe and community. But what I'm feeling here, the moon bringing this emotional quality and the energy of Mars and the sign of Virgo, this is a great aspect here for emotional decluttering. Very helpful during this Cancer lunar phase we're in. And it's also got an aspect to that Pluto, and Pluto happens to be exactly opposite Mercury on Sunday. Now, Mercury and Pluto, they work well together. They have a long mythological history of Mercury, the trickster, being able to go down into Pluto's kingdom and back again effortlessly. And so he's here to help Mercury integrate the life force energy of our sun sign. And here in this opposition to Pluto, it's like he's pulling it out. What is the truth of the emotional decluttering that I need to do? We have the sun still in that gate 52, being still, finding moments of stillness to recognize, what do I need to let go here? What is holding me back? What is the emotional decluttering happening in my relationships that I want to take a look at and communicate more effectively? And then with the Earth opposite the Sun in gate 58, what this can lead to, this emotional decluttering, is healthier patterns of emotional connection, as well as more joy. I just love that gate. It's called the gate of the joyous. And when it's there, we're under pressure to find more joy. And I think the symbolism of the charts here are showing us the way in that regard. All right. Well, I think I'm going to stop it there. Again, thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being with me on this journey, and I wish you a great week. Thank you, and bye for now.